I'm sure some of you are gloom and dooming out there. I'm sure some of you are in despair and in panic today. I know more than a couple of you have opened up your 401k portfolios and you've said, holy crap, Stigall. What are we doing here? What is Trump up to? How could you possibly support? I got a note from someone that I have not spoken to in 20 plus years on Friday. Friend. Someone I think dearly of. We you know how it is. You lose touch with people sometimes. And I'll say this. He is a very, very successful guy in finance. I'll just leave it at that. He's in the world of finance. I could give you more specificity, but if I did, you'd go, oh, well, now I see. So I can't be too specific. Let's just say he's very close to markets. He's very close to institutions like the Fed, for instance. In fact, well, I can go this far. I guess he's of the Fed, the Federal Reserve, all right? And he says to me, Stigall, I know you trust Trump, and I voted for Trump. But this is outrageous. This is going to bring us to fiscal ruin. We are going to free fall. We're in a collapse. You can't possibly get behind this. You got to get to the show on Monday, and you got to tell everybody far and wide, Trump's got to knock it off. He's got to stop this. This is going to be disastrous for all of us. To which I responded, even if I stipulate that point of view, that Trump's tariff policies are going to bring us to financial ruin, and I don't stipulate that, by the way, but even if I did, where would you say we are right now? Do you think we're on a road to financial solvency? Do you think things are going smoothly? Do you think that there is something about what's happening at present that's unsustainable in the economy, or no? Because you've got a portfolio and your 401k says everything's okay, and so you think we're okay? Because you see, I don't think we're okay. Here's where I come from, and I think a lot of you come from too. I come from a place where I get out and I drive around and I see things, and I'm blessed to be able to talk to a wide swath of people. I talk with everybody from people who are drawing minimum wage to people who are billionaires in the course of my job. And it's a blessing. I'm grateful for that perspective, because it always helps me to remember that there are two sides to every coin, and not just politically, but economically too. And lest anybody think I'm engaged in some kind of class warfare thing when I talk about this, I'm not. I've never been one of those, the haves and the have-nots, and if only there was some good government policy that came along, everybody could be equal and everybody could be even. I want you to be, let me just start by saying, I do not believe this country is going to give everyone the same outcome financially. I don't believe that's what the great American experiment is. What I do believe the great American experiment is giving everybody access to the opportunity to thrive. Not that they'll all have the same outcome, but that everyone has access to the same opportunity to thrive. How do you do that? Well, you have to have, of the population of us, the 300-some million of us that exist in this country, all of us who are of working age, you have to have access to capital. You have to have access to money, either through loans, or you have to have access to it through at least a salary, a wage, a real wage that can pay bills, purchase a home, pay for kids, grow a family. Why aren't people having families? The first and immediate response is, I can't afford it. I can't possibly afford to have a family. I can't possibly afford to buy a house. We're building apartments faster than we're building homes in this country by a lot. Do you know that? So I say to you, with all respect, all of you who are looking at your 401ks this morning, you've got yours, and you're temporarily upset that what you have is slipping, is, that you've dropped look, me too. I opened it just for fun. And my financial advisor, by the way, is one of those guys that says, don't spend all your time opening up your 401k accounts and your stock portfolios and looking at it and the ups and downs. If you're one of those people, I would assume you live on Tums and Pepto-Bismol. I don't know how anybody does that anyway. That's no way to lead your life if you're an investor. Now, and here's a couple of things. If you're a really smart money person, or you're one of these Scrooge McDuck types that's stacking gold bullion, and you're just constantly rubbing your hands together, looking at the charts and graphs of your portfolio. If you're one of those guys, good for you, first of all. Congratulations that you've done well for yourself. I assume you also have a financial advisor. And so I assume then that the two of you were listening closely when Donald Trump ran and has been talking for 40 years about tariffs. I assume you've been listening. I assume you understood that when 77 million people voted for him, you and your financial advisor, who are real smart, said, this guy's tariff happy, and I don't think it's going to be good in the short term for the market, and that freaks me out or whatever because I'm near retirement or I'm in or whatever. So what's the strategy, Chief, to protect my money so that I lose as little as possible if things go hinky, since Trump has pledged he's going to do the tariff thing? He did it. He's delivering on what he said he was going to do. No one should be surprised about it, including you, the really smart guy with a big fat portfolio and a really smart financial advisor. You shouldn't be surprised about this. That's number one. Number two, I don't think this is long-lasting. I think I trust the man. He was elected on an agenda that 77 million people said I trust him too. There's got to be a new path forward, and he's going to change course. I trust that. Now, it's going to be more than a couple of days. It may be more than a couple of weeks. It may be more than a couple of months. I remind you when Reagan took office. I went back and I did a little comparison. I'm going to go through that a little later in the show today between Reagan and Trump. And it was not rosy when Reagan decided to do some tough things that Democrats opposed as well. Different strategy a little bit, but fundamentally it took a couple of years even, before things kaboom exploded and everybody was rolling in it. Now, do I think this is going to take a couple of years? Do I think Trump's going to have tariffs on everyone for a couple of years? I can't predict. But that's the point. Nobody can. Neither can other countries. And I think Trump's banking on that fact. Nobody can predict exactly what he's up to or how long he intends to play this. But he's playing it, and he's not showing his hand. But he's got a strong one because we're the consumers. We're a consumer-driven economy. That's what we are. We're not an economy that makes anything anymore. We're consumer-driven. We buy stuff that other people make. But guess what? Fewer and fewer of us are making real money in this country to buy stuff. And it is an astounding thing to me when I heard Scott Bessent, who is one of the most brilliant communicators that I think I've heard in a long time. I think Bessent ought to be out there every day, several hours a day. As far as I'm concerned, they ought to make Scott Bessent talk until he has to take lozenges, because I think he's so effective at what he does. And I would commend to you his conversation with Tucker Carlson late last week. It was an hour long. I listened to it on my flight home. Brilliant. And one of the things Bessent said that blew my mind, 88% of the stock market, 88% of this market that everybody is hyperventilating over this morning. Let me say this one more time for effect because you need to hear this if you don't know it. 88% of the market is owned by the top 10% of earners in this country. Did you know that? I didn't. That's a stunning stat. The next 40% of the country, that is where most of us fall, the next 40% of us own 12% of the market. That's mind-blowing. And then, of course, the worst part of this statistic, and the biggest problem, and the problem Trump sees and understands is going to make all of us economically insolvent down the road. Democrats love to talk about existential crises. You want to know what the existential crisis is? 50% of this country has debt. They have no skin in the game whatsoever. Zilch. They're sitting around with tons of personal debt, and they're waiting for government transfer payments from you, who have money in the markets, paying your taxes into a system that is printing money to keep the stock market inflated, so you feel great about your 401k, but it's all built on phony money. The markets have roared for the last 4 years because Joe Biden and a little bit of the late Trump during COVID, but it was a COVID emergency. The country was sustaining itself on a sugar rush of a bunch of printed money that we don't have. We are $36 trillion in debt, and half this country has record personal debt and no meaningful way to earn a wage. and you look at your portfolio and say, oh, God, we're going to hell. We're already there. Trump is trying to pull us out of it. More in a minute.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.